if you're currently contemplating if Idaho is the right move for you or you and your family, this is going to be the video you need to watch, because we're going to dive a little bit into the pros and the cons and kind of what to expect in the state of Idaho as far as life in general. So without further ado, let's get into the content. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Naseem Eissa, your host, and I am excited to do this video because a lot of people ask, is Idaho a good place that they should move to, or should they even put it on their list of potential areas to move? So I'm here to tell you there's going to be a lot of pros and there's going to be a lot of cons, right? Now, everybody has their own things that they're willing to put up with, and some people have things that they just cannot settle for. So one of those things may be bad weather or cold weather. And if that's something you can't tolerate, then maybe Idaho isn't for you. But we're going to be diving a little more into Idaho as a whole. And my goal is to potentially help you make that decision as far as if you should move to Idaho. So with that being said, let's dive into a little bit of what Idaho has to offer. So as far as some of the pros Idaho brings to the table, one of the biggest and probably most important ones for a lot of people is going to be the fact that Idaho is a conservative state. Now, politics is a huge thing, and some people even shy away of speaking about politics. But as far as where you stand in your beliefs, there's a pretty good blend of everything in Idaho. So for politics, whether you're right, left, up, down, whatever it may be for you, overall, Idaho is pretty conservative. And a lot of people relocating to Idaho actually are moving because maybe the politics or the things happening in their states is well beyond what they're willing to deal with. So that's why they're actually choosing to move to Idaho, because it's such a simpler, quieter, and more calmer overall lifestyle, and it's just higher quality of life. So with that being said, higher quality of life is going to be number two. There's so much to do in Idaho, especially if you're someone that loves being outside, right? Quality of life in Idaho is substantially higher just because of the outdoor activities that you have, the amenities that there are offered to you. Now, I will say this, Idaho doesn't have a lot of urban amenities. So there's cities like Boise, or cities like maybe even Coeur d'Alene or Idaho Falls, cities like that where there's a lot more to do. And then there's the surrounding areas, which are going to be more, suburbs, and then eventually you get more rural, which rural towns are actually what make up a lot of Idaho. As far as what you look into or are into as an individual when looking for a town, if you are into more of a city life, then Boise is probably going to be at the very top of your list. Meridian to be added, Idaho Falls or Coeur d'Alene, as I said. But Boise overall for city life and just that lifestyle of being able to go out, socialize, having a nightlife, tons of entertainment and different activities to do overall, then Boise and those surrounding areas are probably going to be what I suggest for you. Or if you're looking for quieter areas, maybe a little away from the grid, but not too far off the grid where you can't just drive 20 minutes to go to the grocery store, then you may be looking into towns like maybe Mountain Home, or maybe you're looking into Star, Idaho. But even those cities are starting to grow because we have so much growth happening, which takes us to point number three. But before I talk about pro number three, I do want to let you guys know I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Idaho. And as much as I love making these videos for you guys, I would also love to help you with your home buying needs. So please make sure you guys reach out to me. This is my cell phone number. I answer all calls and text messages, and I also answer all emails. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And without further ado, let's continue to dive into number three, which is, personally, I think this is a pro. Other people may disagree, right? But the growth of Idaho is bringing a lot of things that, well, Idaho in general has needed, right? There's a lot more activities, a lot more entertainment coming, and just the overall environment and growth and diversity and things that are coming into Idaho have been absolutely amazing to watch. But with that being said, there's going to be a higher population, which means more commute time, or maybe even longer waits at restaurants, or whatever that scenario may be. As you know, growth does come with its own cons. So overall, it's been a positive impact. We've seen a lot more job opportunities, and the economy continuously starting to boost because of that. And believe it or not, Idaho is actually the number 6 rated state as far as people relocating into the state. So Idaho is becoming this hidden gem that is no longer a hidden gem. People love it. People are coming out, they're seeing what it has to offer, and they just absolutely love it so much they're deciding to pick up everything that they own and move this way. So as far as where Idaho is going, and it's going to be a lot better in the aspect of having more to do in what people are bringing to the Idaho, because I think people are bringing a lot of, for example, I think what people are doing is, not to use California to this reference because I do pick on them quite often, but people from California are seeing the bad out there and bringing all the good with them to Idaho, right? And there's a little bit of a tension between Idahoans and Californians, a lot of the Californians, including myself, know that when you relocate to here, you're really just looking for a better life, and overall that is what Idaho has to offer. Same with states like Washington, Oregon, and some of those other areas where things are getting really crazy. But with all that being said, it makes sense to why people are relocating to Idaho, because it just simply has so much good to offer, and for those people that are willing to pick up their families and relocate, it just makes sense. Another huge pro, probably one that is really important to many people, is going to be the low crime rates. Idaho is not significantly famous for anything crazy happening. You know, there's always going to be the one or two, right? You always look up you go on Google and type up man in Idaho, and then you may see some of the craziest things, right? Just like if you look up man in Florida, whatever the hell you may be looking up on social media, it is going to pop up and there are going to be negative things. But overall, Idaho has some of the lowest crime rates across the country, and that is also what is attracting a lot of people to the state of Idaho. Now, speaking of things that are attracting people to Idaho, another big thing that I am a huge advocate for is going to be the natural beauty. There's some of the best looking sunsets. You have some of the best mountain views. I know it's a little blocked off behind me, but just overall what Idaho has to offer as far as nature, scenery, hot springs, outdoor activities, which is going to be what I dive into next, that is something else that a lot of people are looking for. Now, I will say another thing that adds to the natural beauty of Idaho is that people are really clean in Idaho. Like, there's a lot of people that set up organizations to go clean up interstates, right? There's a lot of people that will clean up parks. There's just a lot of things that go around keeping Idaho naturally beautiful as well. So it's not just what the nature has to offer, but the people are really proud to be able to live in such a clean state, and that also adds a lot of value to living in Idaho and knowing that you're not going to catch drug needles and just a bunch of trash and just random things flying around when you're driving around. So huge thing that that really attracts a lot of people. So with that being said, we're going to dive into another huge aspect for why people are moving to Idaho, which is outdoor recreational activities. So I want to say this: if you're an outdoorsy person, this is your paradise. This is the state you have been looking for all your life, because you can do anything from snowboarding, you can do anything from water rafting to waterboarding to taking the boat out to hiking and trail riding, and just so much to offer. I could make a whole list about it, right? I could throw in hot springs, I could throw in all the state parks and all that beautiful stuff, right? But overall, outdoor recreational activities is huge. And personally for me, one of my favorite things to do is going to be floating the Boise River, right? I work a stressful job. There's nothing more relaxing than just taking the day, going to grab a floaty and just sitting my butt down in a tube and letting myself coast across the Boise River. So there's just so much to do as far as outdoor activities, and that's what attracts a lot of people as well. And that's why a lot of people do decide that they should move to Idaho. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cons, but some of the cons kind of go hand in hand with what we've already discussed as far as some of the pros. So with that being said, con number one is going to be the growth. Now, with the growth, we're seeing a lot more commute time. We're seeing a lot less housing supply and a lot more demand for housing. Obviously, things are getting more expensive, which I do want to add in there. Cost of living in Idaho is actually significantly cheaper than a lot of states across the country as well. Idaho is actually 64% cheaper than the rest of the states across the country. That has to do with income tax, property tax, and all other things. So that is also another plus, which I did not mention, but we're talking about it now. Now, with that being said, limited housing supply, there are different negotiation tactics, which if you find a great realtor, not to drop any hints or anything, then you guys will be able to negotiate and make sure that you guys still get a home that you love when you're relocating to Idaho. Now, with that being said, the growth does lead to another con, which is low housing inventories. Now, I'm going to talk about one area specifically because that is my market of expertise, which is Ada County. If Ada County, which includes Boise, Star, Meridian, Eagle, and Nampa, was to not list another house, there was no new homes, they would run out of homes to sell within 1 to 2 months. So with that being said, that's how low the inventory is, and that's how fast they're trying to build, so that way they can compensate for such a high demand in housing in such a low supply at the same time. So everything comes down to negotiating, knowing what you can afford and can't afford, and making sure you know what you want. Once you know what you're looking for and where you want to live, then my suggestion would be to commit to it and execute. Now the next con I kind of hit on a little bit already, but it's going to be that extreme weather. So Idaho does get all 4 seasons. So maybe you don't like the cold, or maybe you don't like the heat. Well, Idaho has that and spring and fall. So you're gonna get some triple digit weather, and you're also gonna get some negative degree weather. But overall, if you prepare for it, then you should be okay when it does come times where it's hot, cold, warm, or very nice outside. So make sure you prepare yourself mentally, and then you can also prepare yourself physically for when those weather changes do happen. Now, I did talk about this already, but I'm gonna mention it again. Another con is gonna be limited urban amenities. But as Idaho does continue to grow, for example, we just got our first In-N-Out in Meridian, Idaho. We got our first Topgolf in Meridian, Idaho. We have a bunch of things that are coming, whether they're first, less, whatever they may be. There's a lot of growth overall in the state of Idaho. And with that, then that con will turn into a pro. But until then, that is going to be making it on the con list today. And then finally, the last one is going to be the education ranking for schooling out here in Idaho. Now, overall, although education isn't terrible, they do have some of the lowest expenses paid per pupil out here in the state of Idaho, which does contribute to why they are ranked so low. Now, I do want to say the types of schools in Idaho, you have private, public, charter, and then a lot of people get homeschooled, and that's because there's so many different beliefs nowadays, and some people really want to be able to control what their kids or children are ingesting as far as what they're being taught at school. So that is going to be another con, but I do believe that strides are being made significantly with the education department and within the schooling system as a whole in the state of Idaho. So with all that being said, if I didn't hit on something that you guys really want to know about or maybe are curious about, please make sure you guys leave a comment down below, and I'll make sure to comment back, or feel free to shoot me a text or call at this phone number. And I do want to reiterate that I am a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Idaho, and as much as I love making these videos for you guys, I would also really love to help you guys with your purchase as you get ready to relocate here if you decide you should move to Idaho. But I think you know now that the answer to that question is yes, you should definitely move to Idaho, because you never know how much it just may surprise you. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next episode.